Hey, physics folks, let's talk about big numbers. Let's talk about little numbers and how we use those in science using something called scientific notation that you might have seen before. I don't know if it comes up in math. In science, it comes up sometimes in chemistry because you got lots of different, you got huge numbers of molecules like in a cup of water. You know, there's molecules are so small, so there's lots of them. But we're dealing with things that are in space that are generally very large or very far apart. And then we also have large amounts of gravitational force that are happening because of these interactions. So big numbers, we have something called scientific notation. And then later on, when you're looking at the math models, we also have the same thing for little tiny numbers that we can use. And that video will show you how to use it in the calculator. For now, we are looking at data for these asteroids. And so you'll notice here that we've got mass and we've got distance from Earth and we've got gravitational force. And all three of these columns have this thing at the bottom. So mass times 10 to the 7th kilograms. Okay, that is telling us about scientific notation. So instead of in the table just a 9, you could write it out like this. 9 times 10 to the 7th kilograms. Okay, well, what does that mean? That means we have the 9 there, and there's a decimal point. It's there even if you don't write it. And since we're timesing it by 10 to the 7th, we just move it over 7 spots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Decimal point's new home is there, and then we fill each one of these buckets up with a 0. And so we are starting to see them put a comma there and a comma there. It is a lot of zeros. So instead of writing 90 million in this table, which would fill it up pretty good, we just write 9 times 10 to the 7th. And what we found is we've found some asteroids that have masses that we can write times 10 to the 7th. So now instead of writing this whole thing in the box, all we write is the 9. And we're telling you, you know what? After all of these numbers here, there are 7 more zeros. So, long story short, when you are looking at graphing these things, don't worry about this. Only think about the numbers that are in the boxes, okay? These have all been chosen so that they are all, have the same number of zeros after them. So the graphing, you're just looking at the numbers that you have in the data table, but I did want to point that out because I know somebody's going to look at it and be like, Mr. Harris, what does this mean? Times 10 to the 7th, times 10 to the 8th, times 10 to the 4th. It's just an easy way to write big numbers or really tiny numbers. And in the math models, we'll review how do you do that in the calculator. Okay, let me know if you have any questions about what you're looking at with the mass and gravitational force.